What's up, college football fans and Mean Green fans? Sonoy Valente here once again with the Mean Green Show. And today I am joined by a special guest, John Fields. And before we get into all things UNT won a game related and how the rest of this season may or may not play out, guys, you already know the drill. If you're a fan of college football recruiting, the G5 football world, coaching carousel, conference realignment, any or all of the above, consider hitting that like and subscribe button because that is truly all that we talk about. John, thank you so much for jumping on with me today. I know we've got a tight window we've got you for, so we'll just make it pretty quick here. But really quick, where can everybody find the work that you're doing now and the coverage you're doing for UNT?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the best spot really is to follow us on Twitter, follow at MeanGreen247. And then you can follow me on Twitter as well at JohnField0. And that'll have links to, I mean, we'll tweet out pretty much every story that goes up on the site, podcasts, and all that kind of stuff. So that's where you can find my coverage and Bruni when he helps out as well. That's where you can find our stuff on North Texas.
Awesome. All right. So a win is a win. I was listening to you and Bruni talk about it. Yeah, I mean, it is, and we beggars can't be choosers at this point. So coming off, an overtime win over Rice, who did beat UAB the week before, may I add. I mean, it's the best we felt in a long time, unfortunately, as North Texas fans. And, really just want to get your opinion on where do you think this team's attitude is? I had Jared Kalmus from he does the stuff for the Alamo Audible. He covers UTSA, and he made this statement that he doesn't seem like the team has given up on Seth Luttrell. And as fans, we may say something or other, but we have no idea. But I mean, would you agree with that statement? I mean, it does seem like they come out swinging. I mean, as far as like the Liberty game, they were in it. Obviously, we pull off a win against Rice. But yeah, what are your thoughts on just like the attitude, as the team as a whole?
No, I agree. I would tend to agree with what Jared said, which is just that these guys haven't given up yet, despite, they've had a lot of reasons why they could. I mean, losing 6 games in a row, certainly that could take its toll on anybody. And I mean, I'm sure it's been tough for those guys, but I would say to their credit, they don't seem like they've given up on Luttrell or anything like that. They knew, I mean, we knew coming into the season that was going to be a really tough stretch of games against a bunch of tough teams. As you said in the Liberty game, it seemed like they came out with some of the best energy they've had all season. And it was just some mistakes and some correctable stuff, at least for the most part, that seemed to, doom them in that one. So I would tend to agree. I think there's still plenty of buy-in from the players. I don't think there's been much of an issue there. It's just about finding a way to get that to translate to actual wins on the field, which, as you said, they were finally able to do against Rice, even if it was an ugly win. A win is a win.
Absolutely. And okay, so the way that this game went, it's just very unorthodox. Austin Aune, 11 for 22, 121 yards in the air, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But he was our lead rusher, again, with that 65 yards rushing. And obviously, Austin Aune is mobile and can move. I mean, I guess you could call him a dual threat, but I mean, I just don't think of him as like a dual threat. I think of him more as a guy who will just let it go down the field, a bleeping rocket, like I know you've said before. And, but that's how I kind of envision his game is, letting it rip. And if it's there, he'll go. And I mean, he'll lower his shoulder too. But is it just kind of, Oscar Attaway's been out the whole season. Our receivers, we never know who's going to be there. We're having to pull, I've heard we're having to pull Lorenzo again to play some DB. And it's just, we're injury riddled, which not trying to make excuses, it's just facts. So, I mean, we're busted up. But
yeah.
Anyway, do you feel like it's just like, okay, scrap the game plan. We're going to go out there and we're just going to win, or we're going to try to win, however that may look. If Austin Aune's got to be the lead rusher, if we've got to do that and just, veer from the tee high and let it fly mantra. But I mean, is that what your take on it is? Or do you have a different take? What is your opinion on how this team got this win and is planning to get wins, down the stretch of the rest of this schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a fair assessment, is just they are having to find a way to win however it can be. I would love to walk through some of the injuries for people who haven't heard all of them, because it has been just an absurd amount. You talked about Oscar Attaway, who looked like he probably could have been the starting running back. If not, he was going to be getting a lot of reps alongside Torrey. And then, I mean, you go elsewhere in the running backs room. Isaiah Johnson's missed time this year. Ikaka Ragsdale's missed time this year, who were basically the two backups. So you've had Ayo Adeyi, which to his credit, former walk-on, he stepped into a big role. At the receiver position, you've had Jair Shorter and Tommy Bush, who look like they're basically out for the season. Jair maybe makes it back for a game or two down the stretch from what the coaching staff has said. But yeah, you've had those two main guys in the receivers room. You've had all those guys at running backs. And now in the defensive backfield, it's starting to become an issue where Quinn Whitlock, John Davis Jr., and Upton Stout are all dealing with some kind of injuries now. So you've got three of your top three cornerbacks basically are out as well. So it's been just a crazy, crazy amount of injuries this year. And even, I don't know how much to read into it, but Grayson Murphy seemed like he had something going on late down the stretch of last game as well. So that could be another guy to worry about. I mean, it's just, they keep piling up time after time after time. And I mean, I don't know. I haven't been following North Texas for crazy long, but just across college football, I don't know that I've ever seen this many injuries, especially guy after guy at specific positions.
Yeah, that is tough to overcome. Just I mean, those are marquee guys. Everyone that you mentioned pretty much is, again, it's not like those guys are marquee guys. So yes, that's tough. That's a tough one to move forward on and be successful, not having those guys to be able to scheme with and plan for it and whatnot. All right, so you just tweeted out, for the first time since Northwestern, we're favored and first time this season, we're favored against an FBS team in Southern Miss, favored by 5 points. Is that correct?
Yeah, 5 points.
All right, so that is hallelujah. Hopefully we can deliver on that. But okay, as far as the Southern Miss game goes, as well as UTEP and FIU, I realize UTEP is off to a pretty good start, but I think their record makes them look a little better than they actually are. How do you think we can fare with these next three games? And again, that's at Southern Miss, then UTEP comes to Denton, then at FIU.
Yeah, I mean, obviously anything can happen on any given Saturday, but given all of that, I mean, you got to feel like these guys, if they can't beat Southern Miss, that's got to be the worst team on the schedule, right? So they've got to be able to beat Southern Miss. Even if the Rice win wasn't very convincing, you feel like getting that win, they can build on some of that momentum. So, I mean, definitely Southern Miss looks pretty beatable. FIU doesn't look very good this year either. So I'd say both of those games should definitely be wins if this team plays up to its potential. UTEP is one of those that's a little bit interesting because you're right. They haven't necessarily, the record is maybe better than they actually are, but again, all you can play is who's in front of you. And they still played pretty close with FAU this last week. So to me, that is a dangerous game, but I think there is definitely a realistic route to going. I mean, at least 2-1 in this stretch, potentially 3-0 in these next three games.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I wouldn't bet that they go 3-0. I just would say that it's possible. I think Southern Miss and FIU should be wins just because of where they're at. We should be able to win those. But the UTEP one, I mean, I don't expect us to be favored by any means, and nor do I necessarily think we will win. But let's say, okay, Coach Fields, you're the coach for the UTEP game. What do you think you try to do with this team? I mean, UTEP, again, it's winnable, but it's not going to be, a walkthrough. So how would you what would be the game plan, again, if you were the coach for UTEP?
I mean, it's all got to start with the run game, right? Because as we've talked about, banged up in the receiving core, the one consistent production you've really been able to get has been in the run game. And even that wasn't really crazy against Rice, but they had enough from enough guys to get it done. So I think that recipe against Rice, where, I mean, Ani struggled, a good bit through the air, missed some open guys, but I think the rushing attack is going to have to be a key. Getting Ani on the ground seems like it's at least somewhat helped, which is kind of crazy to think about given, some of the criticisms of Jason Bean and, his ability on the ground was really his strong suit. So it would have been interesting to see how he would have been able to deliver in similar situations, given how the quarterback position has been really a weakness this year for the most part. But I think it's got to start on the ground with Torrey, Adeyi, and Austin Ani just getting stuff done. And then if they can build from there and get some of the passing production, which credit to Bryson Jackson. He had a few nice catches. Rod Burns has been fairly consistent when he's gotten the ball in good spots. So I think it has to all start with the run game, and then hopefully you're able to build something from the pass game, as they were able to get just enough against Rice.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Roderick Burns has just came out of nowhere and has proven to be very, very productive for UNT this season and earned a scholarship, and that's amazing. But yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of what you said about Bryson Jackson. I feel like he showed flashes last game of what we all kind of hoped that what he could be, and you know, the former TCU player that he is, and yeah, so that looked good. That was refreshing to see. You know, I mean, I know he's had a few drops in the season, a few that I'm sure he'd love to have back, kind of crucial drops. But if we can get him into a rhythm, I think he could still be a good receiver for us. And so it was good to see him involved a little bit more on that end. But well, hey John, I know this is a quick one. Anything else we really need to touch on before you jump off?
I mean, I think the one thing, if we want to talk about something that North Texas just needs to improve on going forward, is just, I mean, it's been a ridiculous amount of penalties, I think, really, the last probably 3 weeks, really, if you want to go back to even the Marshall game where it was, I mean, probably the worst of the season so far. But as I sort of highlighted a little bit earlier, it should be a correctable issue, right? They should be able to fix some of this stuff, but I mean, even in the Rice game, you saw the one drive where Rice, I think it was like a 12-minute drive, and it kept getting extended and extended because they would get third down stops, and then it'd be unsportsmanlike conduct, I think 3 times on that drive, maybe, that extended the drives for the Owls. So they're not going to be able to get away with stuff like that against teams that are better than Rice. And Southern Miss may not be that team, but UTEP's certainly better than what Rice is this year. I think that's safe to assume, even with how they looked against UAB. So cleaning up those penalties is definitely got to be the number one thing going forward, because if you take those away, I think this team has the potential to be at least a solid football team, even with the guys they're missing. It's just about cleaning up those penalty issues.
Absolutely. And one last thing before I let you go, if you have any Easter eggs you can share, that'd be great. If not, then that is okay too. But any whispers on the recruiting front? I know it's been a little more quiet than usual in past years, and that might be due to the fact of just scholarship. Just scholarships are a little bit different with all the COVID years and stuff like that. But anything at all you can tell us on the recruiting front?
I don't really have much at this point, honestly. Like you said, it's been pretty quiet. Obviously, the one guy I did get to watch a while back, got a story out on 247 about him, actually, was Damian Smallwood, who, I mean, he was a pretty impressive offensive lineman to get to watch out there, man. Like, I understand, he's not going against college level defensive linemen necessarily on a regular basis, but you can see the tools, and it's pretty obvious why he's been offered by UNT. So he'll be an interesting guy to watch in terms of sort of the future of the offensive line potentially, and a guy that's had sort of a weird story, committing, decommitting, recommitting, and all that kind of stuff. But if they're able to hang on to him, he's going to be an interesting guy to watch moving forward for sure.
Awesome. We'll take whatever we can get at this point. All right, John. Well, hey, thanks so much for jumping on, and look forward to keeping up with your coverage. And you're doing a great job. If you guys aren't tuning into, what is the name? The new name of it was Bruni's Breakdown, and now it is
Taking the Fields is the new podcast.
Taking the Fields with John Fields. Guys, I could not encourage you more to tune into that. It is great coverage of UNT. But all right, John, once again, thank you so much, and go Mean Green.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on.